Friday, January 17, 2025, Senior Minister in the Office of the President with responsibility for finance and the public service unveiled Budget 2025. That was done to the tune of $1.382 trillion. This is the largest budget ever and fully financed with no new taxes. Thank you for joining us for another program of Budget in Focus. I'm Travis Bruce, Communications Manager of GWI, and today we delve into Budget 2025 and its measures for two critical sectors in our country, that is housing and water. Over the years, we've seen remarkable strides in these areas, impacting the lives of thousands of Guyanese. With me today is none other than Minister within the Ministry of Housing and Water, Susan Rodrigues, and we are going to be talking a little bit about the growth that would have been achieved under her leadership, the plans outlined in Budget 2025, as well as what this means for development of the country. Minister, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. Let's start this discussion off today by first outlining your overall views on Budget 2025. We've been hearing about it being transformational, about this being a budget that is needed for this critical time in Guyana's development. So what would you say in a nutshell to cover your entire views of this budget?
Thank you, Travis. And I want to start off by saying or echoing the sentiment expressed by Minister Ashley Singh when he was concluding his budget speech. And he said, "We have delivered." And that is profound because the successive budgets from the time we came into office in 2020 to now has allowed us to deliver. We can have the best programs, the best projects, the best ideas, but without budgetary allocations or the resources being made available to implement those projects or programs or initiatives, then it will remain unfulfilled. In 2020, we campaigned on a manifesto that promised Guyanese a path to prosperity. And we outlined the vision in every sector to allow us to achieve that prosperity that we aspire as leaders to deliver on behalf of the people of Guyana. And all of the budgets from 2020 to now, including Budget 2025, has been focused on delivering that prosperity. We promised to change the face of the country, the landscape of the country, and you see that is transforming before your eyes. And we promised to raise the standard of living of every single Guyanese. And we can do that across multiple sectors. So across education, healthcare, housing, water, job creation, all of that will improve the standard of living of all Guyanese across the country, across the 10 administrative regions. So 2025 completes our first term in office. It's our final budget before we go to general and regional elections at the end of this year, at the end of 2025. So Budget 2025 completes this cycle and allows us to usher in that transformation and prosperity that we promised the people of Guyana. So I feel like we have come full circle. I am very happy with the budget. I am very pleased with the allocation given to the Ministry of Housing and Water. And I must say that we have received enormous support from the Ministry of Finance and from the President in terms of giving us the necessary resources to deliver on our commitments. Obviously, we have to show growth, and we have to show that all of the allocations that we receive have been put to the use it was intended for. And so later on in our interview, when we go through the numbers, I'll be able to demonstrate using figures, using growth statistics, how we have been able to improve the lives of people, especially as it relates to housing and water. And you know, before we started this interview, you commented that we could go for hours talking about the successes that we've had in the last 5 years, and how our country has changed, how people's lives have improved, and how we have set Guyana on that path to prosperity. And I think it's very important that we speak about the budget in a way that explains all that it has to offer so that people can understand that all of this, regardless of what the allocation is, regardless of how many millions or billions it is, budgets are meant to be used in a way that brings growth and development. So, not to be obsessed with the number, but how effective it is in every sector and the freedom that it gives us to achieve the objectives in each sector.
Minister, on that note of growth, I know that some of the things that we will touch on will really focus on growth, and we can see that the construction sector, from the macroeconomic perspective, permit me to read here, it is expected to continue its growth trajectory in 2025 to expand by a projected 24.8%. No doubt this is due to housing and water with the amount of advancements and infrastructure that we've seen. Could you highlight some of the key achievements that would have been happening in 2024? Some of your high points, the happy moments for the Ministry of Housing and Water, and share with us before we get into this year's allocation.
Sure. Travis, every time somebody receives a house lot, it's a highlight for us. Because anybody who understands the impact that owning land or owning a home has on an individual and its ability to transform the life of that individual and the lives of their families, then it is cause for celebration. Because that house lot will multiply in its value and will last for generations. And that is, in a nutshell, how you build generational wealth. Many of us grew up in families that did not own land or did not own property. And a generation or so ago, it was very difficult to acquire, very expensive, or there was no opportunity to acquire land on this scale that we're seeing it now, where we want to give all Guyanese an opportunity. And so when you understand the multiplying effect that it has and the lasting effect that it has on the person who is acquiring this property and then on the lives of their children who are watching on, who will now grow up to expect more and better, who is coming from a standpoint now where they've seen their family, their parents are homeowners. They too will aspire to do even better than their parents. And this is how one property comes into a family, and followed by a second, followed by a third. And this is how you lift people from low income to middle income, and to ensure that they're on a path where they can grow and achieve everything that they would want to achieve if they work hard. And so in the last 4 years, we have delivered over 41,000 house lots. And if you multiply that, or I should say if you divide that by every year, you would see that we have been on target to delivering 10,000 lots annually. In 2024, we surpassed that. We did over 10,000 lots, and so we've gone in excess of 41,000. And I guarantee everybody that we will achieve 50,000 lots, which is what we committed to in our manifesto, long before the end of 2025. We have been able to commence and, in most cases, complete infrastructure in 84 new housing areas that did not exist before 2020. So part of the process of delivering house lots is first acquiring the land to do that. And so we get land from Gaisuko, we get from Lands and Survey, and in some cases NISIL. In many of these cases, it's former cane fields that where the land is sometimes submerged in water, and we have to clear that land. We have to fill canals, and ensure that we put in the roads and the bridges, install the electrical network, the water distribution network, and drill wells in many of these areas to deliver water to our new house lot, our new allottees. So that takes a lot of time, and that's what this allocation allows us to do, to acquire lands and to prepare it for allocation. So we've been very pleased that we've been able to keep our promises in the housing sector, to create 50,000 lots, and to deliver that to the people of our country. We have taken several measures since we came back into government, and you would recall in our first budget we removed the taxes on building materials. We increased the mortgage interest relief ceiling that was $30 million, which the APNU AFC government slashed in half when they came into government. As soon as we came back in, we reinstated that. So it's now $30 million. And so people benefit from that. And I will demonstrate during my budget presentations and so on how many people benefit from that, how many families benefit from that deduction in their income tax returns. We've worked with the banks. We've had a very good working relationship with the commercial banks, who have lower interest rates now than when we came in 2020. So interest rates in some cases are below 4% now. It was in excess of 5% when in 2020. And so people are accessing mortgages at a faster rate, at a more convenient pace for them. We have a working relationship, like I mentioned. Many times the banks are with us on our Dream Realize allocation activities, so they are there readily accessible to the people. As soon as you receive your house lot, you can go across to one of the banks right at our events and be pre-qualified for a mortgage. So you can start to make preparation from the time you occupy that house lot to move towards the construction of your home. And you would have seen, as you said, from the growth that you spoke about in the construction sector, this has a lot to do with that, but also with the budget for infrastructure. And so you would have seen also the construction of new highways. For the first time under the Ministry of Housing, we built the Heroes Highway. We built the interconnected road from Mocha to Diamond. We are working now on the third phase of the highway. We're going all the way to Land of Canaan. And then all of the 4 lanes, all of the roads leading from Aubrey Barker to the East Coast and from Higgs Wash to the East Coast, those roads will be upgraded to 4 lanes so that all of our allottees will be able to access a road network that will take them to Georgetown or take them to work very easily. It will be accessible for them. So people ought not to be concerned about how far they have to go when they receive a house lot, because we are putting in the necessary infrastructure and building out the road network to allow quick access, because we understand that people sitting in traffic is productive time lost. And so we want people to get to their work and to get home as quickly as possible so they can have more productive hours in the day and that they have more time to spend with their families. So the development that has taken place on the East Bank, the people who are being allocated on the East Coast can expect a similar type of development with access to highways to get them to and from very easily and conveniently.
Minister Rodrigues, I know we have a lot to talk about because water and housing it's very grand in the scheme of things. But let's start with housing. Housing would have received a total sum of $112.6 billion to continue the work to push every Guyanese to realize their dream of home ownership. Notwithstanding this, you did mention the manifesto promise of 50,000 house lots, which will be well delivered. Aside from that, too, there's lots of programs like the steel and cement subsidy. There's the core homes that are being built. There's the hinterland housing. There's so much, the young professional homes as well. Affordable housing is a significant focus for many families. How does the budget 2025 really address the challenges of affordability and accessibility? And then on the second hand, kind of a loaded question, but on the second hand, how will this budget help to deliver on that manifesto promise?
Sure. So one of the things about affordability is accessibility. And even though we promised to deliver 50,000 lots in 5 years, we have not only planned in the time that we have had in government. Our planning was not limited to 50,000 lots to tick a box just to deliver on our manifesto commitment. We are about real development, and we are serious about ensuring that we meet the demands for affordable housing. And so, while we were guided by our manifesto commitment, we went further than that. And many people might have read in the newspapers or heard the announcement by His Excellency that we are working already on a second phase to acquire lands to address all of the outstanding applications in all of the regions except for 4. I'll come back to 4 in a minute. All of the applications in the other regions, so 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How we can address, we're looking at a strategy that will address all of those applications and bring them up to current. So that takes a lot of land, and it takes a different strategy in every region also, because as you mentioned, rightfully so, we have the hinterland housing program in region 1, 7, 8, and 9, which is almost a free house. You get all the materials that is delivered to the beneficiary, and the only thing you do is participate in the construction. So it gives you that sense of ownership, and you're involved in the process. And all of the materials used to construct the hinterland homes are procured from in the villages. So whether it's the timber or burnt clay bricks, it's all procured from the village economy. So in delivering affordable housing, we are creating jobs, and we are stimulating the local economies of all of these communities across the country, including in the hinterland. So that's the hinterland housing, and in terms of accessibility. So we're going through villages and doing at least 10 homes, some cases more, depending on the demand in the communities. Building homes for senior citizens or people who would not have been able to acquire a home if it were not for this program. We have the Core Home Program, which is a collaboration with the Inter-American Development Bank through a loan that we've built in the last few years. We've built a few hundred core homes. That's also like a free home because you're only paying $100,000. This is for beneficiaries on the coast in region 3 and 4. And that program is ongoing. And we have the home improvement subsidy, which is given to beneficiaries that need to improve their current home. So people who have homes already and satisfy the criteria to receive a voucher, that is about $750,000 worth in materials to improve your home. Then we have the steel and cement subsidy, which was announced by His Excellency at the Building Expo in 2022. And this has brought tremendous relief also to people who are now starting the construction of their homes. So if you go to the bank and the bank wants you to spend a little bit of money before before the first disbursement, people come to us. They make their application. It's a very simple process. You make an application, you submit your documents, your ID, your land title, and so on, and you acquire a subsidy for steel and cement. It's over $200,000. I think it's about $225,000 to get you started on your foundation. So those are some of the direct initiatives that we have to help people with affordability. And I mentioned some others earlier, some benefits, incentives, such as the mortgage interest relief, and also working with NBS to increase their low-income loan rate. Their threshold. You would recall it was $6 million. It's up to $20 million now that you can acquire a loan and still benefit from a low-income mortgage interest rate. So that is also addressing the issue of affordability. And it's working so effectively that people are saying to me, it's easier to pay a mortgage. It's cheaper to pay a mortgage than to rent. Because with the boom in the economy, landlords have spruced up their apartments and are looking for for tenants who have a lot of spending power. So even more now, the housing program is needed to help deliver affordable housing to the people. Not forgetting our housing construction drive that we have. We've built over 2,000 homes, and this ranges from low income to moderate income, middle income, and high income, which is the young professional homes. And we have tried to control the cost for those homes. Sometimes it gives us, controlling that has given us a lot of headache with contractors, because people come to build homes thinking that they can make a large profit, and it's not really that profitable. But if managed properly, you can certainly, it can be rewarding for the people who are constructing the homes if managed well. But we do not want prices to skyrocket. We want people to we want to make sure that it's manageable, that we can help to control the market in terms of accessibility for turnkey homes. And so many people are coming to us because they know if they try to build that home on their own, it will cost them way in excess of what they will pay a contractor through the Ministry of Housing. But we still think we have an obligation to try as much as possible to push the construction of these homes that can meet the pockets of the people coming to us.
Minister Rodrigues, just before we go to water, because I feel like we've spoken a lot on housing, but before we go to water, years ago there was this fixation of persons only wanting to own homes in Georgetown. Mm-hmm. And now we see, through your ministry, through the leadership of His Excellency Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali, we see persons going as far and wide, and even Silica City is in the pipeline, nearing completion. Does Budget 2025 cater to that as well, the expansion of Silica City, or perhaps the immersion of a new city? What can you tell us, or give us a little inside scoop there?
Yes, sure. So, listen, I think the East Bank has already emerged in almost like its own city. When you look at the transformation that has taken place there. We've had people come back from the US or Europe that have not been home in the last 4 years, and they say to us, this place is unrecognizable because there's so many new roads now. We feel like we have to relearn Georgetown or Region 4. So I alluded to it earlier that people had a reservation. I think it's a cultural thing. And that's because the population is concentrated in Georgetown, and all of the entertainment and services were concentrated in Georgetown. So people naturally felt the need to live close to that, and to live close to where they work and to where their children go to school. We've started to change that. And so people now are no longer like within the last 2 years, I've seen a shift. Of course, in 2021, 2022, everybody wants to live on the East Bank, and everybody they don't want to go far. And even when we distributed land in Diamond and Grove, they said, "Oh man, it's too far. It's all the way at the back." And similar to the sentiments President Ali would have had when he first started the Diamond scheme, when he started this scheme in Parfait Harmony in Region 3, because people could not see what we knew we were going to bring to the table if given the opportunity, and they gave us the opportunity. So when we started to build Heroes Highway, and people see now that they can get home in 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and they don't have to go to the East Bank Road, it changed their mindset completely. So the people who are being allocated now on the East Coast, or even as far as Silica City, if people want to go there and live, they no longer have the reservation about distance, because they've seen what we did for the people on the East Bank. Open up those lands in the back. So the people now who have their low-income homes close to the highway, they would have doubled or tripled their net worth, or what they paid for that land and the home. And that's one of the ways we are transferring wealth to people. So transferring wealth doesn't mean taking money from the treasury and putting it in your pocket. It's building that wealth and allowing the economy to produce that wealth for you, and giving you an opportunity to leverage it through financial institutions and so on, where you can acquire a mortgage based on the value of your property that was created because we have spent the budget to upgrade communities and neighborhoods so that people can realize the true value of their property. So the people on the East Coast are more receptive to acquiring their land there, because they trust us now that those roads, the road network will be built. So they know that they will have access to highways that will bring them to Georgetown faster. And along all of those developments, we will have commercial developments, industrial development. We're doing an industrial site at Enmore. We have commercial land in all of these areas that we're allocating. So the malls can be opened, and the pharmacies and the theaters. Private investment will come into these areas, and people wouldn't have to travel to Georgetown to receive goods and services. They'll be able to access that within their communities.
Thanks, Minister. A whopping $23.1 billion was allocated for the water sector. With climate change impacting water resources, what initiatives in Budget 2025 really aim to ensure sustainability and resilience in the water services?
So, Travis, traditionally or historically, most of our water was accessed from the aquifer. So that's our primary source of water. In the hinterland regions, the water that we access from the aquifer there is much clearer. So the people in the hinterland community, their appeal was for access to a potable water source. So they don't necessarily need treated water, as is the case on the coast. So we'll come to the coast in a minute. So we've predominantly over the years drilled wells for communities to access clean water. That's the primary way that we are delivering potable water or drinking water to the homes of Guyanese. We have improved potable water access in the hinterland from 45% in 2020 to 91% as I speak to you now. And the overall objective is to achieve 100% by the end of 2025. We've drilled approximately 120 wells in the hinterland regions within the last 4 years. That has never been done before on that scale. That's what the budgets have allowed us to do, and we have delivered for the people of the hinterland with access to clean drinking water. This has improved the lives of people living in the hinterland villages, especially women and children, enormously. Because now they have water coming to their homes, something which they never had before. In many cases, people access water from standpipes. And in the worst case scenario, they had to walk for long distances to creeks and other sources to access water. Some communities or individuals in the hinterland had hand dug wells, and in some cases, through the government, there were shallow wells that were done in the past. These were susceptible to climate change because if you have a hand dug well, which is shallow, and the floods come, the well will be contaminated. If the drought comes, the well will dry up. So either way, that source of water becomes threatened because of climate change, whether it be because of a drought or flooding. So we have adopted more climate resilient infrastructure in the construction of our wells. So we are putting in fiberglass casings, and these are deep wells, so they are insulated from flooding or from droughts. Of course, if you have a prolonged drought period, it can strain the aquifer. The aquifer could come under tremendous stress and may not produce water at the same capacity as it was if we had a normal weather conditions. But that is one of the important ways that we are adopting climate resilient infrastructure in our well drilling materials, and also in terms of preserving energy, because a lot of these wells have a photovoltaic system that has solar panels powered through solar. So that is another way that we are adopting climate resilient infrastructure and very conscious of climate change. So that's in the hinterland. On the coastland, most of the sources is also through the aquifers. So we drill wells on the coastland to access water, using the same type of materials as in the coastland. The wells on the coastline are much deeper because water is harder to access here, and it has the heavy iron content, which contributes to the discoloration or the brown color that people see in their water. And so the main plea for the coastlanders is clean water. So that water previously was untreated. So only about 50% of the people who live on the coast had access to treated water. 52% to be exact had access to treated water. So we devised a strategic plan for GWI in 2021 that has set out a path to acquire 90% coverage by the end of 2025. We believe that by June of 2025, we can achieve 90% coverage of treated water on the coast. So we are working towards ensuring that we deliver on the coastal water treatment infrastructure program, which will see 90% treated water delivered to people who live on the coast.
So, Minister, you referenced there the coastal water treatment infrastructure program, 90% perhaps by the end of June. What does phase 2 look like for the CWTIP program, as well as how does Budget 2025 support the larger implementation of ensuring that water is a priority? I know, President Ali, we just commissioned the Caledonia water treatment plant, yes, taking that water from the aquifer, treating it so it's being able to be consumed by citizens. How much really goes into that?
You'd have seen President Ali demonstrate to the public that the water is safe for consumption, and he consumed a glass of water. The Caledonia treatment plant is one of the first that we have commissioned of 7 that are either completed or close to completion. So the phase 1 of the Coastal Water Treatment Infrastructure Program has 4 components. So the first is the construction of 7 large new treatment plants. The second is the construction of 18 smaller iron removal plants, so smaller treatment plants, which we have installed in several communities across the country. The third is the upgrading of 12 existing treatment plants, which allows us to extend treated water coverage in areas that already have a treatment plant. But by upgrading, we have increased productivity, and which allows us to distribute to more homes from where we have existing plants. And the fourth component is the laying of 200 kilometers of new transmission lines, which will take the treated water from the treatment plants to the homes of the people, of the residents who live in these areas. In 2020, we had 28 water treatment facilities or water treatment plants. When we would have completed phase 1 in a few months, we will increase that to 54. So we'll have 54 new water treatment plants or facilities serving approximately 676,000 people who live on the coast. So these are people who live in region 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 10. So it's a lot of people to cater for, and we are confident that by the end of June this year, mid-year, many of those communities that are receiving water with high iron content will start to receive clean water. They will see the difference. It will be visible for them. We have a period of flushing out those lines, and people may see that the water is poorer in quality, and then it will clear up as we test these water treatment plants and bring them fully into operation. But we haven't stopped there. You mentioned phase 2. So we're not waiting. As I said before, we don't govern by manifesto to manifesto. We're about bringing about real change, real development. So naturally, there will be sections of the population that are still waiting to receive treated water. So we've moved beyond the phase 1 strategic plan. We've already drafted phase 2, which will see the 5 new large water treatment plants built with a loan from the CDB. This was announced already. We have 5 new plants that will be constructed through a loan from the CDB. And in phase 2, we're also catering for the installation of treatment plants or filters in the new housing areas. So I mentioned before that we created about 84 new housing areas. These 41,000 or 50,000 allottees will be moving into their own homes and building their own homes. And so they too will have, the demand will therefore increase for more access. And so we have to continue drilling wells and upgrading the network, the water distribution network in those areas to give access to those who will benefit or who are benefiting from our housing program. And you will also see, Travis, at Hope and at Diamond and at Westwood Tuka, it's already happening. We are moving towards using surface water to treat that water, use the surface water to feed into the treatment plants. And we can use that water to then distribute, treat that water to distribute to the homes of our people. So it's not just the aquifers that we'll be relying on, but we're going to use the abundant supply that we have at the Conservancy here in Region 4, at Hope Canal, and other areas where we have access to surface water in abundance. We can use that, treat it, and then distribute to homes.
Minister Rodrigues, we're almost down to program time, but it would be remiss of me because some persons are referencing the $2.2 billion which was allocated for new water supply systems in the hinterland specifically. So water supply systems are not just the wells, these are house connections. Persons are at their homes in the hinterland. Houses are not in close proximity like in the city.
Yeah.
So it comes at a cost and a large investment, but a needed investment. Why is this so important that the PPPC government, Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali-led government, sees the need for the provision of these water systems in the hinterland? Because some might argue that it's too much of an investment for the people based on their geographical makeup. So why is it so important to this government to do that?
Because it's about equity. It's about ensuring that there is equality. And when we talk, or President Ali talks about one Guyana, people just associate it, there's some critics who would want to associate it with sloganeering. But it's much, much deeper than that. It's about ensuring that Guyanese of all race, religion, gender, belief, political affiliation, that they all benefit equally from the resources of this country. And the resources include clean water, good health care, good education, access to jobs, access to the markets if you want to start a small business. It is about equality. That is the overarching philosophy of our government. And through all of the resource allocation that you've witnessed in the last 4 years, it's been about leveling the playing field. We didn't segregate or separate children who will benefit from the Because We Care grant. It's every school child that will receive it. It's every pensioner who will receive who will see their pension double as it has in the last 4 years. It is every person who wants to get a scholarship. We've surpassed the number of scholarships that we've delivered, that we promised to deliver. We've surpassed it. Those Guyanese are studying, upskilling themselves, and will eventually be earning more because of their upgrade in qualification. This is what it's about. This is the heart of what we do in this People's Progressive Party civic government. No issue is too big or too small for us. If we have to take water to 100 or 1,000 people in an area, taking water to 10 people in a community in the hinterland is just as important. That's how we bridge the gap, the geographical gap between the coastland and the hinterland. Those are Guyanese too. And their lives are much harder than us here on the coast. And until you go there and you see it and you experience their hardships, that's when you'll understand why it is so important for us to pay so much emphasis on the people who live, our Amerindian brothers and sisters. That's why they're special. They have far more challenges that we can imagine than we experience here on the coast, Travis. And they have a unique situation where they live some distance from each other. So their houses are not in close proximity like it is on the coast. So the infrastructure costs a lot more to take to their homes. In the 90s, access to water, potable water, was defined as having access to a source up to a mile away. Up to a mile away. Access, the definition of access has since changed. And now it's to your home. So we promised 100% access. So we have a duty, an obligation to ensure that people have access to their homes that have not benefited from that in the past. People spent hours a day, women especially and children, fetching water from a well that was far away, or in some cases, communities that did not have access to a well and had to fetch water from a creek or some far off distance, had to walk for miles. That is productivity that is lost, that is burdensome on people who have to fetch that water, especially women and children, like I mentioned. And today they have water to their homes or just outside their homes. There's a standpipe. I see sometimes really shallow criticism of us when we commission wells in the hinterland. And people look at what is just visible in a photograph. They look at a wellhead and the fence that is protecting that infrastructure, and they look at the cost and they say that it's impossible for that to cost that. They have no idea that it's hundreds and hundreds of lengths of pipe that people have to dig and then lay those pipes to take to the homes of the people who live in that community. And sometimes, as you mentioned, they live miles away, and we have to take water to them. That is the unseen infrastructure that is part of that cost. And so we have to, if we're serious about understanding how the government is working to deliver growth and development to the people across our country, we have to read. And we have to not get our information from fake news sources. We have to remain objective. We have to do research. And we have to understand what the work entails. That's why we have to be at it every day. That's why Guyanese don't have a lazy government. This government is not a lazy government. This is a hard-working government because we understand the task. You would have seen a member of parliament boast in a Facebook video that 9 wells were drilled in Region 9 under the coalition government. And it's as though it's a grand accomplishment. I told you a short while ago that we've drilled 120 wells in the hinterland. And what did that do? It improved water coverage or access to water from 45% to 91%. So we can measure it. We can see the improvement. We can give you the population that has benefited from that increased access. So that's what discussing the budget is really all about. How do you improve people's lives? And people remain the center of everything that we do in government. It is our guiding philosophy, and we will never deviate from that. And the people of Guyana can trust us with their vote, and they can trust us in knowing that we will deliver prosperity to every single Guyanese.
Minister, I want to ask you my final question, and I want to challenge you as well to answer this in 60 seconds or less. As we look beyond 2025, what is your vision for housing and water in Guyana?
Travis, I would really like to be able to deliver house lots to people at a more current rate. We would really love to get on par with the application process and the allocation process. And we have been working diligently to address every single applicant. Because, as I mentioned earlier, we understand the profound impact having access to your own home has for you, the multiplying effect that it has. And that's my aspiration for every single Guyanese. So I want to comfort people with knowing that we haven't sit back and pat ourselves on the back and say, we've achieved our manifesto commitments. We are working right now to see how soon we can acquire land and complete the work in these areas to deliver more house lots to the people who are waiting for their application to be addressed. And I assure them it will be addressed.
Thank you, Minister. And thank you to you, our listeners and viewers of this program of Budget in Focus, as we spoke on the housing and water sector for Budget 2025 and the allocation. Thanks for joining us.